Get the Intel, the podcast meant for those of us trying to find out what the hell is going on in the field. Here we discuss tools, techniques, and approaches that you can implement to streamline operations and let you focus on your craft.
Hello, Chad Gill here. I am the host of the Get the Intel podcast, where I talk with leaders in facilities management, architecture, contracting, and more. Laminin Coaching is the sponsor of this podcast. Laminin is a business coaching company with a focus on contractors in and around construction. We not only help with proposing solutions and methods, but we implement them in your business as well. After all, good ideas are not useful until they're implemented. So if you're ready to elevate your business, visit us at laminincoach.com to see our full range of services. So joining me today is Christopher. Oh no, I should have asked him the proper pronunciation of his line.
Waiting on it.
Yeah, I'm like, dude. We'll just go with Chris as the owner of Titan Systems LLC and is a senior estimator at the Baton Rouge branch of Structural, the largest concrete repair company in the world. He is a husband and a father of three. After starting his professional career as a forensic accountant, he started in concrete repair and restoration industry in 2006 after Hurricane Katrina. Since that time, Chris has been a laborer, a foreman, a superintendent, an NACE inspector, and finally an estimator. So Chris, for the love of God, what is your last name?
Pierne.
Damn it, that's what I would have gone with too.
I've heard it butchered so many ways. Whenever I played football in college, my parents would always, I was on the starting team, and they'd introduce everybody, and every single, even at home, they would not get the last name right. And finally, I had to go to the announcers and go, "It's Pierne, just like it's spelled."
I don't know. And so I had a guy on here at one time, and his name was very obviously one thing, and one I was like, "Well, how do you say it?" And when he pronounced it, it was nothing like the spelling. And I was like, "Well, that's not right." He's like, "It's my name."
Well,
but that's embarrassing.
Is that down here, you can have it's spelled Herbert, it's pronounced Aber. You can have it's spelled Richard, it's pronounced Richard. So, especially down here, there's a twist on it usually. So, I mean, I never get offended by it. I always laugh at it. So,
only one that ever got mine wrong. I mean, it's Chad and then it's Gill, and it's pretty easy. But my baseball coach in minor league, when I was, middle school, high school, stuff like that, he called me Shad. And finally, one day, I was like, Coach, it's not a big deal, but my name is Chad. It's not Shad. He goes, "I hear you, Shad. Now take a lap." Oh, it was clear there was going to be no more questioning. So,
yeah,
very good.
Absolutely.
So, forensic accounting, tons of people in the concrete industry started out in the accounting program. I don't think that's true. How did that come about?
So for the longest time, I wanted to be an FBI agent. Growing up, ever since I was a little kid, I that is what I wanted it to be. Our family attorney was and family friend was an FBI agent, and I always thought that he was just an amazing individual. And so I told him, "Oh, I'm going to go into criminal justice," and he's like, "You're never going to get into the FBI." And I'm like, "But it's criminal stuff," and he's like, "No, you need to be an accountant." I'm like, "Okay, Mr. Eddie, that's what I'll do." So, I said, "Well, I'm not real good with numbers." And he said, "Well, you go in through the management department and you get your degree in management, and that'll get your foot in the door for the accounting portion of it, because you have to have the accounting classes." And, that's what I did. I got my degree in business administration, a BSBA, Bachelor of Science, Business Administration, in business management. And then went to work for my brother-in-law doing a forensic audit of a company. And it just so happened to take place right before Katrina. So we go through and we do that audit. And I worked myself out of a job. It was supposed to take 2 years to do the audit because the books were so mismanaged. It was supposed to take me 2 years. I did it in 6 months. And so all of a sudden, here I am. I've worked myself out of my special engagement, and I didn't have a clue what to do. Didn't have a clue. So my dad was the senior estimator at a concrete repair company, and he'd always been after me to go work for him. And I didn't like the whole nepotism thing. Get your job because of your dad. I was totally against it. I hated it. Well, I had bills to pay, so I didn't know what to do. So,
that's right.
So I went to my dad and I called him. We weren't on very good terms, and I went to my dad and I said, "Hey, look, I need to schedule a meeting with you." This kind of tells you the terms that me and my dad were kind of on.
Yeah.
And he said, "What do you mean schedule a meeting?" I said, "Look, it's I need to talk to you about some business. Can I schedule a meeting?" He said, "Yeah." So, long story short, I scheduled a meeting with him, and I said, "Look, I'm here to ask you for a job." And he's like, "Okay, no problem." So he immediately, yes. And I said, "Well, look, I hate to say it like this, but I got some terms." And he's like, "Oh, you got terms from—" My dad was a Vietnam vet and did not put a. Said, "Oh, you got terms for me. You come here." I said, "Listen," I said, "just hear me out, what I'm going to say to you, and then you can go off however you want to." I said, "But I guarantee you're going to say yes." He says, "All right, big boy, go ahead." So, I said, "Look," I said, "if I come to work for you between the hours of whatever time you tell me to start to the time you tell me to leave, I'm Chris, you're Irving. It's not father, it's not son." He said, "All right, I can respect that. That's fine." And then I said, "All right, good." I said, "If I screw something up, I don't want you to feel bad about firing me." He said, "Believe me, I won't."
That's right.
I said, "Okay." And I said, "Look, I don't know how long I'm going to be, doing this." I said, "So, if I leave, I'll make sure that I won't leave you in a lurch." And he said, "All right, I'm cool with all that." And I said, "All right, cool." He said, "You start on Monday." And I said, "Look, one last thing. As best as we can, we got to try to keep it secret that I'm not your son, that I'm just some dude." He goes, "It's going to be kind of hard to do that with the last name Pierne." So, started work February 2nd, 2006. And I haven't looked back. My mom and my dad had a bet. I found out about later. How long Chris would last. And my dad told my mom, he said, "I give him a week." Because the only job he had was for a laborer. I knew about the business. I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know hardly anything. He said, "Look, all you're going to be doing is just chipping concrete," because that's all he had to do. And we had a 140,000 square foot warehouse that we had to chip every single bit of the floor by hand with 15-pound Chicago pneumatic chipping hammers. So 140,000 square feet, and we had a year to do it.
You're not gonna work yourself out of that job.
Well, so he says, "Look, I give him a week, but hey, he'll try." My mom said, "I guarantee you'll have to beat him off with a stick to get him to leave." And my dad said, "It'll never happen." Well, here I am. I'm still in the business. I own my own company. And this is what I'm going to do. And it's been a good journey.
Man, that's so it's good. And I know in your in the form that you filled out and sent in, you were talking about the importance of trying to get the message out to people about, young people talking about working in the trades. And I think that is something that is definitely missing. I think no matter how you slice it, it seems like there's a negative connotation associated with working in the trades. Like, oh, well, you couldn't get into college, or you couldn't do this, or you couldn't afford it, or maybe you weren't smart enough, or whatever. And that is just, it's such an asinine thing to hear. And it's frustrating. I mean, trade work is phenomenal. I mean, in every way. I mean, just monetarily, developmentally, it's just great.
Yep. Yeah, we the school system that's here, we have an amazing trades program, pre-engineering. They've got medical, they've got welding, they've got plumbing, they've got electrical, dental, um, CNA programs. I mean, you can literally graduate our high school and come out with your associates. That's cutting off 2 years. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an amazing program that's available to these kids, and we've got to start offering that. We've got to start getting away from these stigmas that oh well, you couldn't get into college, so you went into the trades. Hey, some of the stupidest people I've ever met have a freaking PhD. Just because you got a
Yeah.
PhD does not mean that you're technically smart. You know, the one thing that I struggle with to this day. I cannot read a tape measure. I can't. I physically, my brain. I was a learning disabled student. Okay, up until that time, I was in ninth grade. I had extremely trouble reading. And this is so horrible to say. I work with math all day long.
Yeah.
I can't do math, but I know how to work a spreadsheet,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And I know production rates. I know the work, but I can't do that stuff on paper. You give me a computer, I'm a freaking wizard, you know? And the second that you can get a kid to pick up something that other people can't, you give them purpose. When you give a child purpose, you give them a path, give them that path, and it's wherever they want to go. That's
Oh,
amazing.
and it's I think one of the things that are not mentioned when you talk about the trades as a career is just the satisfaction. You could turn around and look. I mean, even if it is 140,000 square feet, in the day you can turn around and look at that 1,500 square feet. That's a bad day. Of hey, I tipped that today. I know I got that done. That's what I did today.
Mhm.
You and I, we could spend all day typing on a spreadsheet. At the end of the day, it's hard to quantify what you accomplished. But
Yeah,
when you're in the trades and doing it, it's like, oh yeah, man, I know what I did today, and take pride in it. You were out around town. I built that. I made that. I painted that.
we were talking about that the other day. So there's a bridge in after Katrina, a whole bunch of bridges got destroyed, and the Bay St. Louis Bridge. Okay, it's right around the corner from the house that I used to live in, and every time that we go across that bridge, my kids, my 11-year-old, my 8-year-old, my 4-year-old, and my wife, we go across the bridge, and my wife taps and she goes, "Yeah, you did work on this bridge, Henry. Tell them the story." He'll start saying the story because at the time I was a shoot, I think I was maybe a foreman by that time. I was still pretty much a laborer, a glorified laborer, but fixing that bridge. We were building our community back after Katrina, and
Yeah.
that was satisfying. Every time I drive, across the twin span where I did a whole bunch of work on. Hey, hey, look at that thing right there. I did that. You know, and there's a sense of pride when you see that. You know, um, how much pride do I love being an estimator. I enjoy the heck out of it, and I love it whenever we get jobs. But I love seeing my team succeed whenever they get that job, they do the job, and they beat my estimate. Right.
Right.
That their job is to beat what Chris put,
Right.
or be perfect with it. Right. Not the other way. And it's cool because it's a game. You know, um, the thing that I used to do, excuse me, that I used to do whenever I was in the field. Uh, I loved being in the field. I loved it. I loved it. Loved it. Loved it. I was a much younger man then.
Yeah.
Uh, you
But
know,
I loved it mentally. My back and knees,
well,
they
you know,
remember
yeah,
it.
when you're working with your hands and you're out there all day, at the end of the day, you're tired, but you're accomplished. I didn't have to go to the gym anymore, right? I got my workout doing that, and it was fun. But I turned everything into a game. To me, chipping that concrete was, our expectation was 125 square feet per man per day. Well, my job was to try to get that done before noon, and have it be perfect. And I was the only one that could do it. Nobody could figure out how I did it. So the next thing you know, I got all these guys asking me, "How the hell are you doing this?" And then I had to start teaching people. And then it was like, "Hey, you're no longer a foreman. You're no longer a laborer. You're a foreman."
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, the foreman gets fired, and well, hey, or the superintendent gets sick. The foreman's fired. Uh, hey, you got to run the whole job. You're now the administrator. of it. My dad has a massive heart attack. You're now the project manager of it.
Yeah.
It's like what the hell just happened? I started here 4 months ago. Now all of a sudden I'm the guy that's running the biggest job the company's ever seen.
Yeah.
It's nuts. But there was a lot of pride to that, and if we can teach a lot of these kids that, there's more to life out here than just getting through life. It's that sense of accomplishment. You can accomplish a lot of things by going into the trades, and you can make a piss load of money doing it.
Oh yeah.
And look, it's not all about that, because look,
It
I've
didn't
had,
hurt.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've had opportunities that got thrown at me a few years ago that I was just like, man, I could double my salary. Yeah, but I really don't know if I'd like working for these people. I really like the people I work with. You know, there's sometimes it's not about the money. It's about the relationship you've got with the people you're with. And
Yeah.
that's why I love my day job. There, I got a bunch of cool people that just, I love them. I hate that whole thing where, oh, company's family, but these people are mine. They are my family, extended family, and sometimes you want to go crazy and knock them out, but they're your family.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you know, but working in the trades is just so rewarding. You have a sense of accomplishment. You you work on something that's greater than yourself. You know, um, all these things have to come together in order to have a successful project. You know, so
How do you do that? So you're in Baton Rouge. Structural is in Maryland.
mm.
You're in your backyard on a Wednesday. How does that work? How do you estimate these projects? I'm assuming they're all over the place. You're not just a regional estimator, are you?
No, semi regional. So I'm one of the company SMEs for coatings, industrial coatings. So, matter of fact, right before we got on the call today, I was helping out the Chicago office with some verbiage for proposals and production rates and things like that. So typically I'll estimate things in our region. And then if someone needs some help in, Chicago or Dubai or wherever, they just call me and I hop on a Zoom call and just walk them through whatever I can, you
I
know.
love I love the way you just dropped that in Chicago or Dubai, like they're next to each
But
other.
yeah, I mean, we've got three offices in the UAE, and I think that's pretty cool. Every now and again you got to hop on a call, uh, you know, at 7 in the morning because, or whatever the time frame is. But it's neat. But we get to see some really really cool stuff. You know, when me and my dad worked together for 5 years. I got to see some really, really. It was a different market. It wasn't all industrial. We're mostly industrial.
Mhm.
What I do now, but we were a lot more commercial and highway and sewer work, and I got to see some pretty cool stuff. You know, um, Here, and doing industrial, I get to see some really freakishly cool stuff. And uh, solve some really cool problems. I get to look at things and go, uh, you know, I really think that we can solve this way. And then, you run it by the engineers, and then the engineer's like, oh yeah, that's exactly how we'd solve it. And you're like, I'm as smart as an engineer. Yes.
Exactly. And I can be good at sports.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, it's a lot of fun, so so
Is
yeah.
it so what do you see as the when you're doing these projects and you're estimating, how much do you rely on your field experience from earlier to apply to your estimating when you do this? Is it helpful? It's got to be helpful, I would assume.
Well, so that was kind of the whole reason that I started Titan, to be honest with you. I this sounds so strange whenever I say it now because I can't do it anymore. But a few years ago, I had a real problem sleeping. I could only sleep about 3-4 hours a night. I literally, for about 5 years, I only slept about 3 or 4 hours a night, and I don't know why. I was high functioning on 3 or 4 hours of sleep every single day. So I would go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was up by 7.
Well,
and, going and doing CrossFit, at like, or I'd go to bed at 11 something and, wake up as early as possible to go to CrossFit, and, but I was extremely bored. And I was working for a competitor at the time. We got merged with Structural, and I went to the boss and guy that owned the company, and I said, "Hey, look, I got a lot of free time on the weekends. I want to start this company." And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I was doing some decorative stuff. I haven't been on my tools in about 3 years, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of feel like I'm losing my touch with looking at things in the field. And I got free time, and is it okay?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, that's fine." He's like, "Go ahead." He's like, you're not doing anything industrial, just keep it light commercial and residential." I was like, "Okay, cool." So that's how Titan kind of started. And I did my first I did my first garage floor job, actually, for one of our competitors,
Yeah.
uh, for because I used to work for him, and we're still very good friends. And he gave me my first job, and then it just kind of, every couple of weekends I'll go do a little garage floor, or do a coating job, or do a wood look floor job. And it's a lot of fun. It keeps me sharp, um, with my production rates. It lets me uh, stay humble, because at the end of the day, I think one thing that um, guys that go into the office kind of lose is how much respect you really need to have for those guys that are in the field, because without them, you're nothing. You know,
Yeah.
you can be the best estimator in the world, but if you don't have really good guys out there in the field to do it, it doesn't matter. You know, I kind of felt like so back when my father was still alive, uh, he told me, he said, "Look, you're getting a little cocky, because we weren't working together anymore." And I was getting really, really cocky before I started Titan. And he's like, you weren't like this whenever you were on your tools. And I took that to heart. I really did. And plus, I was, I'm bored and need to get, you know, back to being humble. So
Yeah.
I had to literally get my ass kicked on my own jobs. You know, I
That'll
had a,
do
I mean, I did a little garage, uh, parking garage slope job where it was like at a 45-degree. And I thought that I could grind that off with a walk behind grinder.
Oh no, I have been there. I have made this mistake.
so so literally I got this grinder, and it ate itself within about 5 minutes. I mean, it ate itself. I had parts flying everywhere, and I had a weekend to do this 700 square foot remove and elastomeric coating deal. And I think it was like 800, 700 square feet. And I said, well, the production rate for grinding with a 7-inch grinder is should be about 300 square feet if I just got to grind it smooth. I said, let's cut that to about, I started doing the math. I'm like, we can do it with 7-inch grinders. Let's go. So it was me and two other guys, and we we literally kicked our own butts grinding this stuff off with a 7-inch grinder. So funny anecdotal story to that. I'm literally doing the math calculation of how much it's going to cost me to walk away from this job.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
We've
because
also
I'm literally going, all right, my insurance will cover this if I walk away from. And then I was like, you can't do that. You can't do it. So I'd go back to grinding. I'd go back to grinding. So as soon as I go back to grinding, the other guy is contemplating quitting. We find out this later, and he looks over and he goes, that guy hadn't stopped. He hadn't stopped at all. He keeps going. Then the other guy's contemplating quitting. He looks over, sees us two keep going. He says, well, I can't quit. They're still going, because they're much younger guys than me. And we're just all, and it just kept going around and around. We're all thinking about quitting. So finally we get done. And one of them goes, man, I thought about quitting. And I said, man, I thought about quitting. And then we all said the same story at the same time. And we were like, oh man, and we didn't, and we persevered through it. And, at the end of it, we were sore, we were beat up, but we laugh about that every time we see each other. We tell the same story, and we laugh about it, and it's funny because that perseverance meant something to all of us,
yeah.
and I think there's a lot of life lessons and hard work, stuff that.
Well, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot there about iron sharpens iron. People talk about making you better, but there's a lot about just keeping you in the fight too. And I can't tell. In college, I went to military college, and we would do these runs, these forced runs and stuff like that. I can't tell you how many times I was running with a buddy of mine, and for a long time I was just convinced, man, I must be a quitter because all I wanted to do on these runs, I wasn't a good runner. And now I love running, but at the time I didn't like it. You don't like doing anything somebody tells you to do. And so I was like, God, I'm such a quitter, man. I was like, and I was like, man, if you quit, I'll quit. If you quit, I'll quit. And I just keep thinking that thing, and I was like, man, if somebody else would quit, then I quit. And you keep on going. And I told that story to my wife she's my girlfriend at the time. I was like, man, I think maybe inside of me I'm just a big quitter. She's like, I think you're normal, except for the fact that you don't quit. She goes, you think about quitting. She goes, you can think about a lot of things, but just don't. You just don't. And it's one of those, it's okay to have that feeling. It's just not okay to not keep going.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of people need to understand. We talking back about the kids, understanding that perseverance and tenacity, those two qualities will carry you through anything. And I say that it's inscribed on my wedding ring, and it says persistence and tenacity. And my wife's wedding set, my funny brain, the way that I think, persistence got me to the point of asking her to marry me. So it's her engagement ring is inscribed persistence, and her wedding band says tenacity, because tenacity will keep us together. We met in 2007. We're very good friends, and I just couldn't get away from her. I didn't want to get away from her. I constantly, hey, what are you doing? How are you doing? I'd go and eat dinner with her parents. She's off at college. I'd go eat dinner with her parents. We weren't even really dating. We were just friends, and that persistence and tenacity, there's something to be said about it. It can carry you through a lot of stuff.
Sometimes the biggest thing you got to do is show up.
Yeah.
Probably the majority of the time, you just have to be there.
Yeah. But put forth enough effort, and eventually it's going to work out.
Yeah. What is it they say? Sometimes the opportunity will just be like, oh, for the love of God, stop knocking, man. I'll just let you in. But some guys said the best ability is availability.
There's something to be said about that. When I went to college, I went to college on a football scholarship. I went to junior college on a football scholarship. In high school, I was a pretty decent football player. I made all Gulf Coast, Sun Herald Gulf Coast team in 1998, and I went to a small Catholic school. I'm at the time I was 6 foot and about 275. I set the state record for squats and powerlifting at the time, and I wasn't the best guy. I was just the meanest, and I just got after it with reckless abandon. Got to junior college, and I wasn't particularly good. The speed of the game was amazing. We had guys that had transferred in from Alabama that just couldn't make the grades. We had a guy from Auburn, and I was on the offensive line, and wasn't very good. I just wasn't good. I'd gotten fat, got up to 315 pounds, and my coach pulled me to the side, Mike Beagle, and he said, "Hey, you got 2 choices in the spring. You get better or get gone." I said, "Okay." So during the summer, I took a job at one of the casinos, and I ran from the parking lot, which was a couple blocks away, all the way to my receiving job. I was in shipping receiving, and came back, and we had hitting drills. And the first thing coach said, "Well, I'm going to put you against one of the new guys." I said, "No." I said, "You put me against Reggie." Reggie was University of Georgia was supposed to play for University of Georgia. He was one of our defensive guys, and Reggie's like, "You calling me out, Lumpy?" Yeah, that was my nickname. I said, "Let's go." It's the first time he puts me flat on my back. I mean, flat on my back. He said, "You still want something?" I said, "Yep, let's go." And I pancaked the ever living piss out of that dude. And everybody went, "Oh my God, what happened?" And he got up, he was pissed. So we did it again. And it was a total stalemate. And everybody was like, "I think we got something here." So we wound up going 7-3 my sophomore year. And we didn't go to a bowl, but we did pretty good. And then that was a lot of fun, that persistence and tenacity. And then I went on to Mississippi College and played there for 2 games and then dislocated my foot, but then played the whole rest of the year. It was definitely interesting. And I thank God for every single bit of that stuff. I wouldn't ever want to do it again. But the path that takes us to where we are is the path that we need.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't be happy with the destination and curse the path.
Yeah.
That's what it took. I
Yeah.
mean, for sure. Man,
Absolutely.
that's awesome. And I think it's a good story for a group, and I admire you for trying to push that out to this generation that's coming. I think, it takes work, it takes perseverance, and you're gonna have to earn it. I think with our children, we're trying to make sure they have problems that they can deal with. And let them deal with them, because these are small problems. They feel big to them, but they're small problems now. But then they're prepared and ready to handle a bigger problem, and at least they know what it looks like. And like you said, ingraining that perseverance and showing them opportunity looks different in a lot of places. And trade work is a place with a lot of opportunity.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I think that we need to make sure that we do with all of our kids that are in our care. I don't sugarcoat anything to my children at all. I don't. If something's not going right, I say it's not going right. I don't lie to them. I make sure that I tell them, "Hey, Dad had a rough day today. Give me a little bit of space when I get home, and we're good to go." And then after that, it's hugs and kisses and snuggles. But that's one thing that we need to make sure of, is that this generation that's coming up, we don't lie to them, about the situations that we're in. We've got an economy that is struggling. We've got a aging workforce that is retiring. There's opportunity abound for someone who just wants to take a chance. If I think the numbers, I had them memorized a few months ago. The numbers of plumbers and electricians that are retiring or trying to sell their business right now is off the freaking charts. And if you are a person who wants to put in some hard work and apprentice under one of those guys, or guys or gals, and take over a business that has the opportunity to make you millions of dollars. I'm not talking hundreds of thousands. I'm talking about millions of dollars in electrical and plumbing. You have the opportunity. All of these children have the opportunity. We've just got to show them that it's there. All these kids are wanting to. I want to be an influencer. I want to do things on YouTube. Look, at the end of the day, there's only so much bikini clad people that can be shown on YouTube. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's only so much that you can do with that. At the end of the day, when you're turning a wrench and you're providing a service for someone, you're doing some honest damn work, and you're making good money at it, and you're providing for your family, and it's honest. That's a win, man. You can hang your head high.
That's what my dad told me. He said, as long as you can use your hands, you'll never starve.
Yeah.
And there's confidence to be drawn from that, and then he pushed us to do more and to do different things along the way. But yeah, and owning your own business, it's not for the thin skin and the faint-hearted, but it can be very rewarding. And it doesn't have to be that hard, all the time. The start is hard. It's supposed to be hard. It's like anything. It's like boot camp, it's supposed to be hard. But then the rest of it, if you do it well, it starts to kind of even out and get to be a little bit, turns into a little bit more of running a company rather than having a job. And that's where you want to get to.
Yep. 100%.
Well, man, this has been a great talk. I appreciate you taking the time to kind of meet with us and kind of tell a little bit about your angle down there. I think that's cool. I love the having the artistic side to kind of keep you humble and keep you in touch with the field, and then also translating that to the estimating side and playing the game of did I get the estimate wrong, or did the guys work really hard, or do I owe them or they owe me?
Yeah.
that's interesting, because nobody beating the estimate's a good idea until the estimator changes his market, his labor rate or his labor hours and production rate. Say, whoa, we just had a good day that day.
Yeah. Well, I thank you very much for talking to me about all this. I think the biggest thing that we need to hopefully people take away from this is having conversations with your children or any person, any younger child or someone who is struggling, right? If someone is struggling, talk to them about the trades. If we can get children and people that need to learn a new skill into the trades, a bunch of things happen. I'm a member of Kiwanis. Kiwanis's whole mission is to help the lives of children. And I think the trades really, really does that, because it gives them a path. And if you have a path, you can walk the path. If you can walk the path, you can make it to a destination. And the destination is not just to live and pay taxes. It's to live and thrive. That's why we're on this earth.
And you can get there debt-free with satisfaction. And that's awesome. Well, man, I really appreciate it. I wish you luck. I know you got that outdoor kitchen that you're getting ready to put into action for your Christmas party. And
we gotta.
Oh, that's a fine setup.
Oh, I still got to build
concrete tops.
Yeah, I still got to build the oven, and then got the.
Oh, big green egg, and you doing a pizza oven there on the back end?
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, me and my wife, my lovely bride, poured this countertop. We're still married after that. So
I have done many a concrete countertop. So yeah, I know the pains and the joy of that for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and this is fantastic. I wanted to catch up with you in the future here and see how things are growing.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Get the Intel. We'll see you next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.